Hello guys and welcome back to another gameplay video. Yes, I still feel to continue playing this because over time the game's kind of grown on me. Sure, I missed out on a custom radio, but at the same time there's just some improvements that you just can't live without. Seriously, if this hopefully gets big enough and people even think to reply in the comments, please tell me how exact. Please tell me that there's some kind of mods where they take most or all the features that the definitive edition has and to put into the original, because I do have the original PC version. I haven't modified so much, but yeah, I just don't know if there's any kind of thing where there's possibly an autosave mod and I would have to re-look it up and put it back in or something. But in an autosave, is there mods to make sure that where if you were on a bike to if you just had just press W for CJ to not for CJ to go on his certain little huge sprint on the bike instead of needing to rapidly tap to do that.
Expressions down, cause I'm from Grove Street.
Also, let's just say that, well, yeah, let's just definitely say this, that until the San Andreas, the San Andreas DirectX 3.0 mod comes where when it comes out for free, that if it does in fact have nearly the same graphics here, oh, I did not know I still had that thing running. And I'll just go with a bullet. Let me just mute this. And if I don't feel the talk, then I'll have some kind of other talk thing go on that would be, I guess, when causing kind of copyright strike. Not really copyright strike, but copyright claims.
We'll let her loose it.
Hold on, guys. I gotta pause the recording. Alright, guys. As you can see here, I am back. Let's just say that let's just say I had a certain feel on my body, but that certain feel, it's like near an itch. And I was just having to check around. But anyways, let's get back to the gameplay.
What do you think? I'm a Mexican jumping beat?
Lori's was your first mistake. You are my boy now, amigo. My career depends on this. And that's very important to me. So seeing as we're all boys now, that makes it important to you. Now run along, kids.
I don't know, you tell me.
That's right, Davy boy. You can say that.
Steve, I told you I would handle
Oh,
this.
because you've handled everything so fucking well so far, haven't you?
All right, I admit things have been a little unorthodox, but
Fucking orthodox! You ruined my career. Agent Sanchez, arrest these men both.
Steve,
Whoa!
please.
You fucking kidding me? Arrest me for what? For multiple counts of every fucking crime under the fucking sun. Oh, well, then let me rephrase. Why? Why? Because you don't want me to testify in court.
It's amazing.
What's up now, Torino?
This history, it's all lies. It says Hitler killed himself, and then we nuked Japan. And people believe this shit. Jesus. Well, if it makes them sleep better at night, I guess.
Hey, man, what did you want? Is you gonna free my brother?
No. Not now. And here's a little news flash. I said that to get you to do something for me.
Man, you real fucked up.
But the shocker is, we are gonna look after him. Because I need him alive as much as you do.
Oh, thanks.
You know, after what you've done for me, it's like you're a pro now. I got double agents in Panama. I want to put a price on your head. A Russian spy, little fat Boris-looking guy. He's asking for clearance to interrogate you. Russian style. Calipers on the genitals. Feels good. You like it.
That ain't nothing cool, man. Just leave me alone. You bad news.
Don't worry about it. The Russians got bigger things to worry about than your genitals, believe me. The whole country with the shit. You know, we tried hard to put a lid on it, but that idiot Gorbachev with his little strawberry in his forehead, he gave away the crown jewels. Still, they got their, their boy in the White House. That was nice.
So? What you want me to do?
Now listen, I need you to buy me some property, okay? Shouldn't cost that much. You offer them $1. If they give you a hard time, kill them. I'm gonna need you to start doing some real wet work here for me soon, okay? Enough of this little girl bullshit. Now get out of here. Come on, beat it.
Alright guys, let's get to that. Let's get to this airstrip.
About our various business dealings, right? Agent Sanchez, apprehend the suspect.
Agent Sanchez
Appreciate
will do
that.
no such
Thanks.
thing. Now, Steve, we agreed to speak to Michael.
It's his career. That's all he really cares about. As a law enforcement official, you take an oath to uphold the law and the Constitution, which neither of these organizations are doing. Now, as for Mr. K, we first encounter him in the Mission Breeze company. He is being interrogated by Karen Daniels. This is also Michelle from GTA 4. In GTA 4, we did not know what agency the UL paper contact was from, but we find out in GTA 5 that it is the IAA, which is based on the CIA. Mr. K installs cinema equipment. That's all he does. The whole reason the government picked him up is because of how incompetent they are. So Mr. K is brought in primarily for funding. And by the book, he is being tortured.
I told him what I tell you. Uh-huh. What? Hey.
Well, Carl, so what do you think of our new base of operations?
It's missing something. Maybe a tennis court and a pool would help motivate me better.
Very nice, Carl, very cute. So listen, now, you're gonna have to learn how to fly.
No, I ain't.
Yes, actually you are. I set out a series of tests for you. You can access them on that TV. You're gonna have to prove to me that you can fly if you're gonna continue working towards your brother's freedom.
Shit. Whatever, man.
Very nice.
What is it? The house in Rockwood Hills. The man who owns it. He works at the consulate. Oh, that's all I know. That's it. That's it.
I'm gonna make him speak.
No.
You two are gonna drive up to Rockford Hills, and when we find out which man is man with the problem, we put it down. 'Cause I'm tired of these fucking nitwits at the agency taking all the glory. Go.
Fuck is all this, huh?
Think it's a good time, but, you know, so we'll drive.
You get to work, and I'm not here.
Now notice how the interrogation works. Steve Haynes never asks detailed questions. Mr. K is ready to comply. Steve Haynes only tells Mr. K to tell him what he told the IAA. He repeated that he knew a man in Rockford Hills that worked at the consulate. By consulate, he is talking about the Azerbaijani consulate. He obviously knows people that work at the consulate because he immigrated to America from Azerbaijan. Michael and Dave Norton then go to check that location.
Bullshit. This place? They've been shooting the real guts of suburbia here the last few weeks. No way that you got it.
You are kidding. I'll call Steve. Wrong house. This guy isn't our guy.
Okay. You sure you don't silence him just to make sure?
Silencing someone, silencing the rights. Get me another address. Hey, you want a coffee?
Steve is such a scumbag that he says, you want to silence them to be sure? At least Dave Norton, as corrupt as he is, has some integrity and tells him no.
Where do we start, eh, buddy?
Wait! What are you talking about, the wrong guy? No! Who do you want? Just tell me what you want. Ah, man? Ah, please. Look at me, please. Come on. Do your patriotic duty. Please don't hit me. Be gentle. I got brittle bones.
I hope you're not a...
That's the wrong guy, to which Mr. K tells him, what do you mean it's the wrong guy? Tell me who you want. Steve Haynes doesn't give him a name or hint to the person they want. Instead, he has Trevor torturing him, to To which afterwards Steve says, "Tell me about Tahir." Mr. K knew who Tahir was. He was ready to cooperate. The torture was completely unnecessary. But because of how incompetent the FIB is, they torture him for something they could have simply asked him about. Tahir is another Azerbaijani American millionaire who lives in Chumash. Mr. K installed the cinema equipment at his house. His first thought was it was someone at the consulate. That's what they wanted. He didn't think of Tahir. He wasn't hiding anything. Once Michael and Dave Norton get to Tahir's house, there's a big party and they want a description. Mr. K is ready to talk again. The torture is unnecessary. He's weak from the torture, but ready to talk. Instead, Steve Haynes has Trevor torture him once again.
The target.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. Loosen him up. No, please. I tell you what, you loosen him up. No, please.
How many bolts do you think they got running through these things?
No, Dad. No, come on, please. Don't do it. Not the cliff. Please. He's done. All right. You see his face when they did that?
Hey. Now? Huh? Now? Ready to talk?
You need to talk since the day I got kidnapped 6 weeks
That's what
ago.
we're afraid of.
Now I'm eager.
So, yeah, this guy we're after, what does he look like?
Average meal. Come on. Average height. Middle age.
Okay, it sounds like you're stalling the story enough.
Middle age, middle height, middle build, whatever. He's dark. Okay, he's Azerbaijani for God's sakes. Look around. Not enough for you?
Mr. K gives a generic description of Tahir, but you have to understand, Mr. K was not thinking clearly right here. He was under a lot of duress, he was being tortured and scared that they would torture him again, so he just said the first thing that came to his mind. If the FIB had done a simple interview, sitting him down in a room and just asking him a few questions, he would have told them everything and thought it out clearly. Because he's under threat of torture, his heart is beating, he isn't thinking clearly.
One stand out.
No, they all kind of blend in. Make a call, Dave.
We're gonna need some more info on this guy. They're having a party down.
Sorry about that, guys. I felt something, and then I had to use a flashlight. Anyways. That is a bunch of garbage right there. Either that, or did I perform enough of a glitch to where... No, cause if I... Yeah, hold on.
knives at this party? Huh? Because that's all Mr. K's given us.
No!
You know, I'm thinking maybe I just take 2 bullets and put
Please, no!
small hairspray on your mind.
He tells Steve that he has a bushy beard. He's trying, but this isn't good enough for Steve Haynes. He has Trevor torture him again, to which Mr. K tells him he smokes a lot.
Beards at this party? Vinewood's full of weak chins. The place is famous for it.
Damn. Beards are in fashion in Chumash. Land of beach hipsters. We need more.
It's gonna be a long day until you give us some intel on our target.
That beard! They smoke like a fucking chimney!
I don't know. Trev, maybe one more time? Just to be sure.
No, please, no! I told you! He smokes! That's all I know! Nothing to complain about here, pal. This is totally legit. It's a torture! It is! I got blood in my mouth! Vegas! No! I was wrong! Torturer!
Yeah, here he comes.
Hasn't this man done enough for national security? Rise and shine! All I will help!
Mr. K. Mr. K.
I don't know anything, please.
Okay.
Chain smoke. And it's left-handed.
What's that?
Chain smoke. And it's left-handed.
Oh. Any bearded guys at the party smoke cigarettes. Mr. K says he smokes like a pack or 2 a day.
Redwood cigarettes.
Thank you, Mr. K.
3rd time's a charm.
Again, this is not good enough, and he is tortured one final time, where he says that he smokes a ton and is left-handed and it's Redwood. The thing about this is these are simple questions that anyone could ask. You don't need to be an FBI agent to know the right questions. They could have asked him, what brand of cigarettes does he smoke? How often does he smoke? Is there a specific time he smokes at? That's all they have to ask, and it would jog his memory, not this unnecessary torture. And if you notice, who is the one who pulls the trigger? It's Michael. I think that they had Michael shoot so that if they got the wrong guy, they could blame the whole thing on Michael and disappear. Michael is already a massive criminal that had a name change. The FIB could have easily screwed him over here.
Good feeling. About as good as you can get while clipping a guy who probably don't deserve it. Now I'm taking a shot. Maybe I got someone. Definitely a lefty. Redwood smoking, bearded, maybe. Could be. Used to be. Azerbaijan.
Good enough for me.
Steve, it's done.
Steve Haynes then tells Trevor to get rid of him. Now, the main reason that Trevor doesn't kill Mr. K off is because he hates authority and hates the government. He refuses to be told by someone else what to do. That's why he doesn't listen to Haynes and kill him. But during the drive, Mr. K tells Trevor he would have easily told him everything about the torture.
Woo! That is a wrap, my friend. Excellent work, the pair of you. Now I got a racquetball game to get to, so Trevor, you take care of Mr. K. I think we're all set. What the fuck do you want me to do with him? I would say he's outlived his usefulness. Shut up! That's the sport.
Just go. Hey, man. Fucking scumbag. Tell me what to do.
What? You just tortured me.
Don't ask too many fucking questions. Let's go.
Get up. Come on, up the fucking stairs. Oh, fuck sakes. Come on, let's go. All right, you got a flight to catch. Okay? Get you here. Oh, first.
Trevor also knows that Mr. K is innocent. If you let him die during the torture, you actually get a secret fail cutscene where Trevor tells Haynes he had him torture an innocent man to death. show how incompetent the government is. They kidnapped this guy simply because he was Azerbaijani and happened to know Tahir, the actual terrorist, and we don't know if Tahir truly was a terrorist. The Weasel News broadcast calls him a beloved person in the community, though it could have all been lies.
This murder at a house party in Chumash.
Chad and Shanice Mulligan getting divorced.
A super club is coming to East Los Santos.
Partygoers at a house in Chumash were horrified yesterday when a guest was killed seemingly by a sniper's bullet. Tahir Javan was smoking on an outside terrace when he was gunned down. Police are baffled as to why this much-loved Azerbaijani American, who was a noted philanthropist and community leader, would be targeted.
Celebrity news.
So even though that's what the broadcast said, it could be a lie and cover up by the government. There is no doubt racism played a role in this as well. Mr. K was simply kidnapped because he was Azerbaijani and knew Tahir, who was also Azerbaijani. It was just a massive coincidence. He happened to be installing cinema equipment, and because the government is so stupid, they assumed that because they are both from the same country, Mr. K must be involved in terrorist activity as well. That's how stupid and incompetent the FIB and the IAA are. And if they had Tahir's name, couldn't they have figured out where he lives? These guys have top-secret black sites and so many resources. Couldn't they find out what Tahir looks like and where he lives without Mr. K?
Hey, how's your mouth? It hurts. Can you speak?
Kinda.
Are you gonna hold it together?
I want to go home. I want to see my family.
No, you have no home. You have no family. That shit is over.
I do. They're in the recording booth. I love them very much.
No, that's your old life. That's over now. You're off the grid. You're one of the invisible people.
Just take me home.
I'm taking you to the airport. You're gonna get on a plane. You're flying a long way from this country and you're gonna spread your message.
I don't have a message.
You're a torture advocate.
Advocate?
The media and the government would have us believe that torture is some necessary thing. We needed to get information, to assert ourselves. Did we get any information out of you?
I would have told you everything.
Exactly. Tortures for the torturer, or the guy giving the order to the torturer. You torture for the good times. We should all admit that. It's useless as a means of getting information.
I'm feeling lightheaded.
Sometimes you torture for the torturee, but only if they're prepared to pay.
I am very unwell.
That's me with you. Jesus Christ, good grief. I thought we really bonded, but now I'm having my doubts. Me? Run. You're free.
But my family is here.
Your family is probably the ones who got you fucking in here, all right? And look, trust no one, all right? You're alone now.
Really?
Yeah, really. Now let's go. Fuck off. Come on.
Another thing about Mr. K here. The other reason that Trevor actually takes him to the airport, he doesn't take him back to his family, is because Steve Haynes will actually kill Mr. K and his entire family if Trevor takes him back. So Trevor is actually saving Mr. K here. Now look, Trevor might be insane, but Trevor is not stupid. Steve Haynes clearly shows that he's willing to get rid of everybody involved. He even tries to get rid of both Michael and Trevor near the end of the game, even though both Michael and Trevor have been helping him out. Remember what Steve Haynes said earlier. He wanted Dave Norton to kill everybody at that house to make sure.
Wrong house. This guy isn't our guy.
Okay. You sure you don't want to silence him just to make sure?
Silencing someone, silencing the right someone. Get me another address.
And then what did he say at Chumash?
I think you're making this up.
No, I'm not. No. I'm telling you the truth. She did?
Any good types of this party? Huh? Because that's all Mr. K's giving us.
No.
You know, I'm thinking maybe we ought to just take 2 bullets and put them in our
Please, no.
It's called the
Oh, whoa!
Please.
Fuck, kidding me? Arrest me for what? For multiple counts of every fucking crime under the fucking sun. Well, let me rephrase. Why?
Why?
Because you don't want me to testify in court about our various business dealings, right, Agent Sanchez, apprehend the suspect!
Agent Sanchez, you'll do no such thing. Now, Steve, we agreed to speak to Michael, to try and explain things to him.
He said, why don't we kill everybody at the house in Chumash just to make sure, too. So Steve Haynes would have 100% killed Mr. K and his entire family. By her putting him on a plane and sending him away, he's saving both Mr. K and his family. Once Steve Haynes dies at the end of the game, Mr. K can probably return to his family because I doubt that Dave Norton will actually care about that. As bad as Dave Norton is, he has some more integrity than Steve Haynes. But what if I was to tell you that Mr. K is actually based on a real-life person or heavily inspired by him? I don't know 100% Mr. K is inspired by this guy, based on this guy, but their situations are very similar. A very similar situation happened in real life. The man's name in real life is Murat Kornaz, which I have an image of right here. He was born in Germany to Turkish parents. In 2001, he became very religious. He was 19 at the time, and he traveled to Pakistan visiting several mosques. This was in October of 2001, the same month the United States invaded Afghanistan. Kornaz was traveling with his friend Selçuk Bilgin. Kornaz also claimed that he was marrying a Turkish woman by the name of Fatima, and he wanted to study Islam more, which is why he went on the trip. Once they were at the airport, Bilgin was not able to board the plane because he had a previous charge and fine where his dog ran unattended and attacked someone. He was ordered to pay a $1,300 fine before he could board. He called his brother Abdullah and asked him to wire the police the money, but Abdullah called the police. He told the German police, "My brother is following a friend to Afghanistan to fight the Americans," he said, according to police reports. Abdullah stated he was stirred up in a Bremen mosque. Now, this does look very suspicious, I will admit, but Abdullah's German was terrible. He later took back his statement. He said his words were taken out of context, and he was worried his brother might be caught up in the fighting. This is hearsay. It's not evidence. Hearsay is when someone makes a claim about someone else but will not testify. Abdullah would not testify to his original statement later on. But also, it's in this, from what I've seen, when he made the statement to the police, he said his brother is following a friend to fight the Americans, but he did not name that friend. He instead just said following a friend. So it seems like Abdullah doesn't even know who Kornaz is. And so here's what I think happened. I think that Abdullah saw his brother and Kornaz, two young guys becoming very religious, and they were visiting a country with a war nearby. He thought that they might end up joining the Taliban. That's what he probably assumed was happening. He thought they were possibly being radicalized. There is no proof that Kornaz was going to join the Taliban. The really messed up thing here is that Kornaz had no idea that Bilgin had been arrested, and he got on the plane to Pakistan. He had no idea he was being investigated. Bilgin, after a careful investigation was cleared, the police investigated this. The German police investigated this thoroughly into Kornaz as well. What they found was that his mother claimed he purchased boots and binoculars when he was going to Pakistan. This is hardly evidence of him doing anything bad. Pakistan is a very mountainous country. He was planning to do a pilgrimage through the entire country. Someone traveling through the mountains would want boots. And binoculars, again, while the binoculars might look a little suspicious, it's not evidence that he was planning something bad. I wasn't able to find whether he took the binoculars with him on the trip. When he was traveling, they may be used for sightseeing. It would have been much more concerning if he was buying things like knives or some kind of material to possibly make bombs. So the German police, they looked into this, and the German police found nothing. Now, the German police, they interviewed a colleague of Kornaz who attended the same shipbuilding school. This colleague claimed that Kornaz had Taliban written on his phone. This also looks really bad, but when you break this down, this is hearsay as well. The phone was never recovered, and the person making this allegation against Kornaz did not testify, making it hearsay. And when you think about it, who would have Taliban written on their phones? Even terrorists aren't that stupid. This may have been simply a colleague that did not like him or thought he saw something that he didn't see. You know, the police are questioning. This is right after September 11th, so everybody's on edge. Everybody's worried that something like this might happen. The German police are probably interviewing his colleagues. One of his colleagues, they're interviewing him, asking him, did you see anything suspicious? Was he talking about this? Did he say he was going to help terrorists? And then he's thinking, oh, maybe he had Taliban written on his phone. So the phone was never recovered. They didn't find that. And the police in Germany, they searched apartments, they tapped phones, they visited Kornaz's mosque in Bremen, the mosque that was supposedly accused of radicalizing him. They found no evidence that he was involved in terrorist activity. None whatsoever. And also, even though these two statements here, the one about the Taliban on his phone and also about his friend's brother claiming that they're going to Afghanistan to fight the Americans, even though these do look bad here, guys, I will admit, when I read his tribunal, because he attended a military tribunal later on, there's actually more proof that this statement by Abdullah was actually nonsense. I'll explain a little bit later. I'll come back to this statement, don't worry. But moving on here. So what happened to Kurnaz in Pakistan? The next few months, he spent on a pilgrimage visiting different mosques until December, when he decided to return to his parents in Germany. As he was approaching the airport, his bus went through a Pakistani military checkpoint. He was questioned, and because he was not Pakistani, he was suspected. He was arrested, held for a few days, until he was turned over to the United States in Afghanistan. He was accused of helping the Taliban, but there was no evidence that Kurnaz had entered Afghanistan, nor had he helped the Taliban. In fact, the U.S. was telling Pakistan about bounties on suspected terrorists, where the ones who reported them would receive big cash payouts. It was later revealed that Kurnaz was sold for a $3,000 bounty. According to Kurnaz, he was chained to the floor of a plane and had a bag put over his head. During the flight, he would be kicked and punched. The plane arrived in Kandahar, Afghanistan, Afghanistan's second largest city. He was then taken to an outdoor cell where he was not given proper clothing. A big misconception that people have about Afghanistan is that it's just a very hot country. In reality, parts of Afghanistan can get very cold, especially in the mountainous regions. This happened in December, January, and around that time, usually temperatures in Kandahar are about 40 degrees Fahrenheit or about 4 degrees Celsius. At night, these can drop to 30 degrees Fahrenheit or -1 Celsius. And remember, he's outside and doesn't have proper clothing, so he is going to freeze. He also claimed that American personnel threw half-eaten MREs. These are meals ready to eat over the fence to him, and he barely had food to eat. Kurnaz states that they beat him repeatedly and asked him, "Where's Osama bin Laden?" to which he would scream that he didn't know. They dunked his head in water, and they suspended him with pulleys and put his hands behind his back. They left him like this for days. Later, Special Forces personnel from the German KSK came to interrogate him. They also did not find anything. Now this part, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. I could be wrong on this, but the soldiers torturing Kurnaz, I don't think that they were regular U.S. Army. I could be wrong. I do know they were definitely Americans, but I suspect they were some kind of special forces that were trained specifically in torture. Think about it, a torture area like this in an American military base, this is a story that the media would just jump on. The government would do their best to hide a story like this. I think the soldiers torturing him weren't some regular U.S. Army grunts because their risk of that getting out would be enormous, but some kind of more elite special forces. He would only be selected personnel, selected by top people in the government, to run a torture section of the base. I'm not defending what they were doing was horrible. I just believe it wasn't regular U.S. Army, but some more elite top soldiers doing the torturing. There was probably some CIA in there as well, as the CIA have been known throughout history for their torture methods. Kurnaz claims that he saw one prisoner beaten to death with rifle butts. He doesn't remember how long he was hanging, but other prisoners claimed it was 5 days. After a few weeks, he was transferred to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now this is what confuses people a lot. Why does the U.S. have a military base in Cuba, a communist dictatorship that is hostile to the U.S.? Guantanamo Bay is a base the U.S. leased from the Cuban government after the Spanish-American War in 1898. In 1898, Spain and the U.S. went to war. The U.S. helped Cuban rebels gain their independence. The U.S. put a pro-U.S. Cuban government in. It was kind of a puppet, but it had greater autonomy than the Philippines, for example. The U.S. established the base there after the war, and they've kept it ever since. After the communist takeover, the U.S. refused to leave, and that is how they have a base. Now, why Guantanamo Bay specifically? It was converted into a terrorist prison in 2002, where the U.S. government could send suspected terrorists. The U.S. government could argue that since the suspects are not on American soil, American law does not apply to them. Kurnaz was put into an orange jumpsuit and forced to wear a gas mask while chained to the plane. During the flight, he was not allowed to sleep and constantly woken up. He was put in a small outdoor cage and left there in the hot Cuban climate. Kurnaz was interrogated several times and beaten. He was starved. Other times when he was too tired to eat, he would be force-fed. He was not able to sleep for 3 weeks, and every hour he moved to a different cage. This was his life for 5 years. And if I talk about some of the other things he encountered, this video might get flagged. This is how brutal his treatment was. What Kurnaz experienced was hell on earth. 2 years into his detention in Guantanamo, he was called into a military tribunal in 2004. Let's read what he was accused of exactly here and see what the evidence against him is. So this right here is the documents from the military tribunal, and I will actually link them down below. There was actually a university who actually published the entire thing, but it says right here, unclassified summary of basis for tribunal decision, combatant status review tribunal decision report, introduction. As a combatant status review tribunal, CSRT decision report indicates that the tribunal has determined that this detainee is properly classified as an enemy combatant and is a member of Al-Qaeda. In reaching its conclusion, the tribunal considered both classified and unclassified information. The following is an account of unclassified evidence considered by the tribunal and other pertinent information. Classified evidence considered by the tribunal is discussed on Closure 2, the CSRT decision report. So let's take a look right here. Discussion of unclassified evidence. The tribunal considered the following unclassified evidence in making its determination. The recorder offered exhibits R1, R2, and R3 into evidence during the unclassified portion of the proceedings. Exhibit R1 is the unclassified summary of evidence. While the summary is helpful in that it provides a broad outline of what the tribunal can expect to see, it's not persuasive in that it provides a conclusory statement supporting the unclassified evidence. Exhibit R2 is an affidavit of Miss It's blank is the detainee's mother, and provided the detainee's background and confirmed date the detainee departed Frankfurt, Germany to Pakistan. Exhibit R3 is a sworn affidavit of Berhard Dock, a lawyer retained for the detainee's habeas corpus case. The tribunal found this information somewhat helpful making its determination, but considered the sworn testimony of the detainee. The detainee explained that frequently a mosque in Bremen, Germany, that was considered moderate in its views of Islam and tolerant of other religions. However, it also housed a branch of the Jamaat al-Tabligh, a Muslim missionary organization alleged to support terrorist organizations. I'll talk about that organization a little bit later. The detainee stated that an imam for JP advised the detainee to travel to Pakistan to immerse himself in the study of Islam. The detainee then purchased a ticket to Pakistan, and with his friend Selma Bilgin, they began their travels. Upon checking in for the flight to Pakistan in Frankfurt, the detainee's friend, Mr. Belgian, was arrested. Mr. Belgian stated that he was arrested because he had outstanding warrants as a result of his dog biting him. Mr. Belgian is the alleged Elanitas suicide bomber. Once in Pakistan, the detainee testified that he traveled to Lahore to attend the...
I'll just say this, guys, I'm definitely going to be titling this video, these annoying helicopter missions, or just something about these helicopter missions here. Like this helicopter prank.
JP Muslim school there, and traveled to Peshawar, Pakistan for further studies. Upon his return from Peshawar to Lahore, the Pakistan police stopped the bus he was traveling on and arrested him. Pakistani police asked the detainee about Mr. Belgian and his relation to the detainee, and then turned him over to the Americans who transferred him to Bagram Air Base for further travel to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. A tribunal had to look at the detainee's sworn statement and classified exhibits for support of unclassified summary of evidence. Okay, and we'll come back to this about Belgian being a suspected suicide bomber also, but I want to cover this right here. And I'll link my sources down below for this. So this is from a New York Times article. And this is actually about that mosque. So remember about that mosque they were saying? So the mosque that Kurnash had actually gone to, they were accusing the mosque of actually radicalizing him. And this is actually one of the first few things the German police did. So after Abdullah, Belgian's brother, had reported this, they started investigating, they started, tapping phones, they started looking into records, started searching apartments, and they investigated the mosque that both Belgian and Kurnash went to. And this is actually what the German prosecutor actually said about that. As things turned out, Mr. Belgian was stopped from leaving Germany by the border police because he had failed to pay a fine for an unrelated misdemeanor, according to Mr. Picard, the prosecutor. When the police called Mr. Belgian's family to see if the fine could be paid so Mr. Belgian could leave, one of the family members said that they did not want him going to Pakistan for fear that he would join a Muslim group there fighting against the United States. It was this comment that prompted Mr. Picard's investigation into Mr. Belgian and the Abu Bakr Mosque that he and Mr. Kurnash attended. So that comment that Abdullah made basically started this whole thing. And this is what the German prosecutor said, Mr. Picard. Of course, we were concerned with the possibility that Murat Kurnash had been radicalized by a preacher in the mosque, Mr. Picard said. According to some German officials, German intelligence has identified one member of the Abu Bakr Mosque as having recruited fighters for pro-Qaeda groups, which would seem to justify an effort to find out if Mr. Kurnash is one of them. So, this was according to German intelligence. There was somebody at the mosque that was recruiting people for Al-Qaeda. However, though, when the German police actually investigated these allegations that the German intelligence made, they found this. Mr. Picard said his investigation of the mosque, which included interrogation of the suspected recruiter and a search of his home, produced no evidence of terrorist connections or any attempts to recruit Muslims there to fight against the United States. We get rumors sometimes they preach hatred there, Mr. Picard said, in the Abu Bakr Mosque, but there is no proof. So there was nobody at that mosque that was actually recruiting to Al-Qaeda. The German police had investigated those allegations, and there was none. There was none. There was no evidence of it whatsoever. So right here we have the interview during the tribunal. And remember what I was saying earlier, how Abdullah made that comment, which did not make much sense? Here, right here, you actually have evidence on just how he reacted, how Kurnash reacted to the allegations against Belgian. So remember how they said that Belgian was actually a suicide bomber? Take a look at this right here. Do you have any questions regarding the tribunal process? Detainee that is Kurnash. I will wait. Tribunal President, if you have a question, you may ask it at the time. After the recorder presented the unclassified summary and read paragraph 3A3, the detainee is a close association with and planned to travel to Pakistan with an individual who later engaged in a suicide bombing. Bilgin possibly is the Elanatus suicide bomber. The detainee asked the following question. And this is what they were saying. They were telling him at the tribunal that his friend Bilgin had actually blown himself up in a suicide bombing attack. And what ended up happening is, when Kernash heard that Bilgin had supposedly blown himself up, that his reaction was, where are the explosives? What bombs? He had an outburst in the tribunal. He freaked out. He freaked out, not that he was like angry or furious or something like that, but he freaked out in just total shock. He was just completely shocked by this. And the reporter responded to the tribunal president, "Sir, I don't believe I can answer in this session." So the recorder made these allegations saying that Bilgin had blown himself up, and then the recorder refused to answer to the tribunal president on how he got this information. "I don't believe I can answer in this session." Tribunal president then says, "I certainly cannot answer, because this is the first time I've heard this evidence. It is my understanding that anything remaining concerning this individual Bilgin is the classified session." Then Kernash made another statement. He said, "I am here because Selçuk Bilgin had bombed somebody. I wasn't aware he had done that. My association with him is not as a terrorist. We exercised together at the gym and played sports. We both raised dogs, and because of this common interest, we became very good friends. Even though he was several years older than me, he was like a big brother. I wasn't aware he had done those things. I don't need friends like that. I am a Muslim from Germany. I didn't start praying until I was 18 or 19 years old. My parents are not Muslim, and they don't pray. My religion is peaceful. No one has the right to kill anyone because they don't pray. If I were a terrorist, I wouldn't have needed to go to Pakistan. For example, if I killed people because they didn't pray, I would have started with my mother and father. They would be the first ones I would have killed because they didn't pray. I love my mother and I love my father more than anyone. I also have a lot of friends that don't pray. At the time, I didn't pray. No one had the right to kill me because of it." He continues and he says, "I didn't do anything wrong in Pakistan, nor did I harm anyone in any country. I've never been to America before or after September 11. I didn't have any reason to go to Afghanistan. My visa was issued in Germany to travel to Pakistan, not Afghanistan." And Inaudible told me Selçuk had blew himself up and someone else. I never knew about that, and he had never done anything like that before. When I knew Selçuk, he was a good friend of mine. He exercised a lot. He was a nice guy. After Selçuk got married, we didn't spend much time together. He didn't go to the gym as often, and I was busy studying art. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. A lot of you guys are thinking, you know, he was going to travel to Pakistan with this guy, and this guy's brother made an accusation against him, and then later on he blew himself up, so Kernash must be guilty as well. Well, here's the thing. Here's the really crazy thing about this. What if I was to tell you that Bilgin never blew himself up? He never did. It never happened. There was actually a reporter from Mother Jones who actually went, tracked him down, and interviewed him. And the German police, even when they heard about this tribunal, because this tribunal was the first time that Kernash was actually able to get information to the outside world, and with his lawyer at that time, the German police even confirmed that Bilgin was alive. They were confused by it as well. So here's what it says here. What the allegation that Kernash would be traveling a companion, Selçuk Bilgin, carried out a suicide attack. As it turns out, Bilgin is alive and residing in Bremen with his wife and 2 small children. So in that time, Bilgin never went to Pakistan. He stayed in Germany after he had that fine for his dog attacking that guy after the police cleared him, and he had 2 kids with his wife in that time. I tracked him down in early January with 3 phone calls and a visit to his parents' home, and we met a couple weeks later at his lawyer's office near the city center. A stocky man with large dark eyes and a wiry beard, he arrived in a white Audi station wagon with car seats in the rear and was wearing olive cargo pants with a thick black jacket that cinched at the waist. Following his arrest in Frankfurt, he explained, he was held for a few days and then released. After that, 2 people from intelligence services came to talk to me, he told me. Some journalists called, then I just went on with my life. Indeed, Bilgin was never charged with any crime, although he was initially suspected of influencing Kernash to go to Afghanistan and fight. Kernash's parents also blamed him for their son's ordeal, and the 2 men no longer speak. And as for the attack that Bilgin was actually accused of carrying out, there was an attack on a synagogue in Istanbul, and the terrorist who actually did that was called Elatunas, and Bilgin was accused of committing the Elanatus bombing. which that doesn't spell the guy's name correctly, that original terrorist who did the bombing. This is a separate bombing that they are claiming happened, and this second bombing that they're claiming did not happen. There was a terrorist called Elat Tuntas in Turkey that didn't attack. Bilgin had nothing to do with this, and the second attack was spelled differently. Picard had looked into Bilgin once again after this tribunal, and he said, we don't have proof that the two wanted to go to Afghanistan or had any terrorist plans, he said through a German translator. He said German state security agencies told him they had never heard of an Elan Nutas bombing or a group by that name. As far as I'm concerned, this group is just a series of letters that means absolutely nothing, he said. And as I see it, the Americans really have no reason to hold Mr. Kurnash. That wouldn't be allowed under German law. So get this. The tribunal was saying that the mosque that Kurnash had went to in Germany had terrorist recruiters. When the German police did an investigation, they found there was no evidence of that. That did not happen. And the tribunal also claimed that Bilgin, his friend that was supposed to travel with him, had blown himself up in a suicide attack. But that didn't happen either. And the thing about this is the tribunal discarded this evidence. So Kurnash was not able to defend himself properly. They didn't listen to him. So the recorder was making these wild allegations, and when even the tribunal head, when he asked the recorder about it, the recorder said, I cannot answer where I had gotten this information from. What kind of tribunal is this? In a proper trial, you're able to see the evidence that's against you, and you're able to contest it, and they're supposed to explain to you where they got the evidence from. This is nonsense, these allegations against Kurnash. So now this is the group that he was accused of conspiring with. So the question he was asked is, Jamaat al-Tabligh supported you in your travels to further your studies in Islam. Did you know that Jamaat al-Tabligh supported terrorism? You asked me two questions, right? Beginning with the statement, the recorder says, Jamaat al-Tabligh supported you. And Kurnash says that Jamaat al-Tabligh in Germany is not the same as it is in Pakistan. In Germany, they talked about Islam in Pakistan and how beautiful it was over there. They also talked about the big school. They didn't help me go to Pakistan, but they did tell me a lot about the school. So I decided to go. While at the school, you were supported with food and lodging. I said before, they didn't support me with food. I slept there only one night. They gave me dinner and breakfast. Everything else I paid for myself. Are you aware that Jamaat al-Tabligh was associated with or supported terrorism? And Kurnash says, I didn't know anything about it. I'm not saying they aren't terrorists. Maybe they are, but I wasn't aware of it. And when you were in Germany, did the Jamaat al-Tabligh have an imam or a sheikh? The Jamaat al-Tabligh had a mosque. It's called, there is an imam, but he is not. He stayed in a mosque and sat with other groups. There are two different groups in the mosque, the Jamaat al-Tabligh and another group. Did the imam have the authority to issue fatwas? The imam was young. I don't know if he issued fatwas or not. I sat with him many times in the mosque and talked, but I never saw him issue a fatwa. So you never heard of a fatwa for jihad at any of the mosques you prayed at in Germany. I didn't hear anything about it. So remember, the mosque that he went to was investigated by the German police, and the German police found no evidence, none of radicalism. Now, about this group itself, like the Jamaat al-Tabligh, I had no idea what this group was. I've never heard of this group before, and so I decided to Google this group, and I decided to Google whether this group had any kind of terrorist links whatsoever. And I think that the tribunal actually spelled this name wrong, because what happened is whenever I typed in the name, instead it would come up Tablighi Jamaat, which I think that's what their organization that they're referring to as. But anyways, I looked up this organization and I wanted to find out whether this organization actually had links to terrorist groups. And what I found that there's massive amounts of argument online. There's a lot of people that argue about this group. There are actually some countries, some Middle Eastern countries, that have actually outlawed this group. But basically, from what I've seen of people arguing, is some people argue that the group has no links to terrorism. Other people argue that the group does have links to terrorism. What I was able to find is that this is a very ultra-Orthodox branch of Sunni Islam. This is a very religious group, very, very religious. And from what I've seen, the group itself, the leadership of the group, and the main body of the group is not involved in terrorism. However, though, the group has been used by terrorists to recruit before, because it just the group